Hey climbers, and welcome back to the Treehouse. My name's Ree, and this is the tarot tree. And in today's video, I thought we'll get involved in a little tag that's been going around for a while now on TarotTube by the lovely Candy at Candy's Soul and Soil. And that is my top 10 curiosity decks. Also going to kind of combine this with Rachel Amethyst Ascensions, sort of look at, what would we put in our curiosity cabinet as well. So we'll do a bit of both. So yeah, what can I say? What a great idea, I think, people who are involved in tarot, I think a lot of us, we have kind of interesting, curious things, and I'm no different. And I love having a peek at your collection, so why not show you mine? I've really been collecting curious things since I was a child, to be honest. Mainly because my dad would just come home with a load of random stuff for me a lot of the time. We're going to see a few now. One being a didgeridoo. I don't think I can quite get that on camera, but it was a pretty cool thing for him to come home with randomly one day. But I digress. So we're going to be looking at what kind of decks would fill my curiosity cabinet and what objects. I really do need a curiosity cabinet. I actually think I have enough stuff to fill one. It looks so cool. I would need the room to set it up somewhere. So yes, but watch this space. So without further ado, let's look at some curious objects. Why not? So we've got to step into the crystal realm, right? And this one, I love this. I don't know if you guys can see it. This is tourmaline, but it's actually got one streak of quartz running through, which I just found actually quite a poignant thing. I love this crystal. Obviously, a lot of us know this is a protective crystal to sort of transform kind of negative energy, protect charges from it, etc. And I always feel like this little streak of quartz that's down the middle just reminds me, that there's silver linings, even when we're going through tough times. And it's just such a cool piece. I love it. Next up in curious objects, we have this ball, which I'm not sure if it's a glass ball. It seems more like a glass ball than like an amethyst ball. I mean, it'd be pretty cool if it's amethyst, but I don't think it is. It seems more like a giant marble, right? But there's a very curious and interesting story behind this. I was going on a night walk in the park that I used to frequent, like an ecological park, and was walking about, and then something, there was like this little underpass in this park, almost like it had a bridge going over the top, and something just caught my eye. It was twinkling, and I was thinking, what in the name is that? Me being the magpie that I am, whether it's dark and it's nighttime or not, I'm going to check that sparkly thing out. And voila, I found this. Very witchy, right? It's almost like a kind of like a scrying ball. I don't even know. And oh, here we go. We've got messages from everywhere. Here comes the postman or whoever it is that's at home. Where was I? Yeah, so it was almost like a crystal ball, and I was like, wow, that's fascinating. Picked it up, took it home, and it's been with me ever since. I don't know what its origin story is, how it ended up there in the middle of a park in the middle of the night. Was it stolen from someone's house? I don't know. And someone went in running away, dropped it. I really don't know. But it's really cool. And it's been in my collection ever since. So that would definitely go in the curiosity cabinet. Speaking of other curious crystals, oh, it's rolling away. Labradorite. One of the most magical dragon egg looking beauties. You've seen this before if you've been on my channel. I absolutely adore this crystal. There's just something, it's like there's an energy source inside that just starts glowing, even though it's when you just hit it at the right point with the light. Very beautiful crystal, all about transformation, very manifesting. What's the word am I talking about? Very good for manifestation, that sort of witchy and magician vibe, so that has to go in there. And I had to show off this sweet little guy as well. Look at him, this little carved aventurine bear. Beautiful little fellow, so sweet. I really don't know how people carve things like that. It's so cool. I wish I could. I tried when I was a child. Maybe I'll show you that, because that will probably go in my curious cabinet too. But there's our little sweet little bear there. So we can stay in the mineral world actually. if we can see over to the right, we have some fossil offerings here. I don't know if I want to kind of take them out and ruin the sort of half-assed display I've tried to make for this video, but I just find fossils, you know, they're just such a interesting and kind of magical in themselves things to have. You know, the age on these are millennia years old, potentially hundreds and thousands of years old, more than that. They hold so much kind of knowledge. They're kind of a portal through to like an ancient time, and the fact that we still have them to physically hold in this era is just fascinating to me. You know, I've always like loved things of that nature, I really have. And yeah, finding them on the beach, even though you're not meant to take them away, is always, you know, such a wonderful kind of moment, really and truthfully. Well, it's better than them selling them to us in the gift shop for like £10 a pop, right? Why not pick them up ourselves? But yeah, no, I'm not. British people are quite funny about that. Don't take things away from our beaches. We'll sell it to you instead. But there you go. What else have we got in the mineral? A giant rock. Why not? I like rocks. I picked this up when I was 4 years old, just after my grandmother had passed away, and I was convinced that she'd sent it to me. Very strange. It was a very strange place to find this, like where this big rock came out of nowhere in my garden. I have no idea, but it always made me smile because it has a weird kind of like crude drawing of a smiley face. I don't know if you can see there, its eyes, its nose, its mouth. But it made me smile when I was feeling, you know, quite sad and kind of really understanding to a degree what grief was for the first time. But not really understanding, obviously I was 4, but yeah, it's just stayed with me ever since. And it's just got, I mean, it's a good weapon if anyone comes for you, you know. Keep your curiosity cabinet close to hand, you know. You never know what you might find to save you from an intruder. But yeah, I'd have a huge fondness for that rock, I have to say. What else? Managed to grab my carving attempt as a child. We did this in our final year of primary school, at about the age of 10-11. These really beautiful kind of lovely stone kind of mason crafters. I don't know, they're from Africa actually. They came into my school and this was our sort of project. I think this is soapstone or sand, I'm not fully sure. There was like this greenish one that I loved, and there was like a kind of sandstony kind of orangey mold one that other people chose. But yeah, I was obsessed with owls, for those of you who don't know. And this was my attempt at carving an owl. It looks more like a slightly deformed pigeon / cat. I don't know, but it's been with me ever since that time. I do have a fondness for it. It's sweet, the fact that I carved this with my own hands. We didn't have too much time to do this. It's only over a couple of days, I think. And yeah, great doorstop. Great weapon, as I said. And very curious, because no one knows what animal this is meant to be. Oh, I do love you though. It doesn't have a name, funnily enough. Few more goodies, why not? These are my beach collecting offerings. So we've got some shells here. Can't go wrong with stuff from the natural world, can you, when it comes to beach combing and curiosity cabinets. It's just fascinating how you just have all of these different stones. Oh, I actually have one. I have no idea where it is now because it's probably in my childhood kind of curiosity box that I'm sure has the face of Jesus on it, which is curious and funny at the same time, to be honest. But yes, I digress. Look how cool they are. Stones, right? We're still primitive, aren't we? We love stones. We've just moved on to shiny ones now, haven't we, in this modern age? But yes, this is what I was looking for. Look at this. There's a name for stones like this, right? Like you see through them. I kind of want to put it on a necklace. It's so cool. Yeah, they're my coastal curiosities. Love them. And yeah, on the table we have a few more that would definitely be on the thing. So we have Albert here. He's been my impish gargoyle companion since I was about, you know, God knows how old, 10, 11. Then I found him in a curiosity shop and he's been with me ever since. Bit grumpy, but a nice guardian to have around. So that's Albert. Here we have this beautiful, I don't know if you can see, it's like a moth carved onto this box. So good for like all your kind of witchy goods. But I actually have a deck in there that may be on this curiosity list. We shall see. And then, how could I forget? One of the most random things my dad ever came home with, but I love to this day and I've had since I was a child, and that is a kind of magic lamp from Arabian Nights. I'm sure this must be from a theatre production. I don't know if my dad was doing up a theatre. He's a carpenter. I have no idea the story behind this, but he came home with it and I've had it ever since. So there we go. I think that's all of our curiosity objects. Some really cool stuff there. I'm really glad that I have it. I don't really have like bones and feathers and things like that. I think I would kind of branch out into that if I actually had a select kind of cabinet space for it though. And it's been really cool seeing you guys with that. I do like me a feather, it has to be said. And even though bones and skulls can be a bit macabre, they are pretty cool. I also would like more tree kind of stuff as well. I saw like Mags Black, she has these beautiful kind of staffs like from birch trees and stuff. I love silver birch. I'd love to have an altar and like curiosity cabinet around all of my sort of tree and botanical kind of elements that I have. That would be really cool. But yeah, that's that, guys. So without further ado, how about we move into the decks, because there's quite a lot to go through. Top 10, you know, I actually may have had a bit more than this, so I might be a bit cheeky and combine a few together. But let's have a look, shall we? Top 10 curiosity decks. So first up, it has to be, it's a newbie, but the Alleyways Tarot. Like, how much more curious can you get than this deck? Let's be honest. And we even get this really curious kind of coin with it. I like that. I do love a little curious extra. It's just, what can you say? It's so eclectic. It's full of kind of, you know, combined projects, really and truthfully, because we have a tarot deck. And then we have, you know, we have our tarot deck. What's going on here? Yeah, we have a tarot deck. I know how to branch this off, which is curious in and of itself. Look at this. Every card is different. We have this whole project about death in this as well, which I've talked through if you want to see my walkthrough. Several death cards in this, all with different meanings. You know, so eclectic, and that's what I always think of when I think of curiosity cabinets and curious things. There's no kind of rhyme or reason behind some of the objects we'll find in that sort of category. There's a lot of, you know, mixed energy, and I like that. Okay, it's so cool because there's always something to catch the eye, something new, and that's what keeps our curiosity, our full, like, childlike curiosity, like, keeps our attention. Why are there so many death cards? Look, hundreds and thousands. You know, what does that one mean? What does that one mean? You know, they all have different meanings. The energy's different. For some it could be jarring, like I've said before, but for me, quite a curious kind of character, Curious George me. I love it. I love to see this kind of thing. Look at this moon card. So much going on. I always think of collage kind of art style as quite curious as well. Yeah, that's something you'd find in a curiosity cabinet, if that makes sense, like homemade things. So it definitely talks to that. And outside of its kind of eclectic tarot deck, it has its own sort of oracle kind of / tarot system here with completely different meanings, which is just as fascinating. And look at this, very old school. I love this card here, the Three of Books. It's about kind of, you got this sort of civilized sort of rat trying to teach these beastly kind of animals. It's about kind of accepting those parts of ourselves, you know, becoming civilized and sort of bestial aspects of life. You know, this curious door. Like, what do these cards mean? You know, a lot of them have that old school like art style as well, which I think is very curious. Look at this. Victorian age. Quirky collage, 9 of clocks there. What does that mean? So yes, it couldn't not be in here. And if you can still get your hands on it and you don't mind a sort of eclectic deck, I really feel like you could have a lot of fun with this. And it's very profound as well, actually. You could split it into several decks, really. 2 main ones, the Oracle and the Tarot. And then, you know, different projects you can use as well, like that Death project. Like I said, all the Death cards are quite interesting to do a project on that. So yes, guys, that is the Alleyways Tarot, our first offering. This big kind of matchbox style box, should I say. Very huge. I think I might have to get a bag to separate some of these cards out, to be fair. But it is cool nevertheless, has to be said. So, next up, shall we stick with tarot decks? Why not? Let's just do it. Do some order. To be honest, it's a curiosity tag. We don't really have to, do we? But we'll just see how it goes. Next up, I couldn't not put this in, and that is my beloved Blood Moon Tarot. Just look at it. It's curious just from its very kind of aesthetics and nature, isn't it? Really, you look at it and you think, wow, what's this? This is a bit different. This is what drew my eye to it in the first place, in all honesty. Look at that, love. Oh, look, it's the same card. That's so cool. Sam Gay, the artist to this, they did a fantastic job. A lot of their artwork is very curious, to be honest. Quite, you know, deep, a bit dark, macabre, you know, definitely draws you in. And this deck is no different. It really gives you a new kind of viewpoint on a lot of these tarot cards, I have to say. Very interesting perspective. The art book to this, I really do need to try and get my hands on that, because that would be really interesting to get a look into the behind the scenes of making this deck. But look, isn't this the most, I find him quite sinister, to be honest, but you know, this sort of curious Hierophant. Look at the hat he's wearing, you know, this time sort of lordy kind of aspect, you know. It's like he's sat in some sort of, you know, in between liminal space there, like, and you've kind of walked in on him when you shouldn't be there, and he's like, what? You know what I mean? Just the characters in this deck, they're curious. What the hell are these things? Turning the wheel, who knows? It's like we've walked into a different universe here. This Justice card, quite macabre. What's going on? I love it. I love it. It really does speak to that sort of slightly, like, when you have that curiosity, is like, you feel like you should look away because it's a bit scary, it's a bit dark, but you just can't, you know. This is what this deck is like. It just sucks you in, even though it is a little bit confronting. Not even a little bit, it can be very confronting. This deck can be quite scary, can be very weird, very strange. Look, eyes, moths, who's this guy? Everywhere, you know. Very, very kind of weird and wonderful. Everything a good curiosity deck should be, I think. Definitely grabs the attention, it has to be said. So yes, oh, we've got the title card still in there. If you can find this deck, if it gets printed again, and you like sort of curious things, you know, definitely pick it up. Look at this, 10 of wands here, 10 of skins. Even the renaming, we have all of this botanical energy as well, which is something I find quite curious. You know, mushrooms, you have snakes, you know, very witchy as well. And I love that. One of my favourite decks, honestly. So yeah, definitely had to be in the top 10, that did. The Blood Moon Tarot. Honestly, check out their art as well. Sam Gay, oh my goodness, their website is just a curiosity shop online. Genuinely, such beautiful things that they're selling. Notebooks, silk kind of scarves and tarot cloths, so check them out. It's really beautiful. The Blood Moon Tarot. Now next up, we're going to have a little bit of a combo, number 3, okay? But it's 2 decks, but the reason why I'm putting them together is because they're used together. So one is a Major Arcana deck, and this is the Inner Journey Tarot by Heather Hobbs. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. And then we have the Inner Compass Oracle. I'm fairly sure that's what it's called. But yeah, look at how they came. Sorry, they're just so beautiful the way that they came. I had to keep them that way. But yes, these are curious, you know, a bit more on the brighter side of curious, I want to say. Not too macabre, not too dark, not very like botanical or kind of witchy, or, you know, kind of bones being everywhere in these two, but curious nonetheless. And here you will see why. They are very wonderful. Look at that, curious as it is. Look at this owl-like creature. That is curious, right? They're collage decks, and I always find this notion of collage a very curious thing. It's like handmade. I definitely feel like you'll find like old school kind of newspaper clippings or old school collage in a curiosity cabinet. You look at these, look at them side by side. It's fantastic. And it's just, there's so much to draw upon here. So interesting seeing this combination of kind of images collaged together to create these sort of, this oracle deck and this tarot, these tarot meanings. And they're also renamed. That's what's quite fascinating about this one. If I could zoom in a little bit, maybe we can see it a bit better. You know, the Magician, this is back in order actually. You know, our High Priestess, Intuition. But look, this blocked, but it's crazy. We have this 1950s housewife with like a camera on her face. You know, what's that got to do with that kind of meaning? You know, it does come with a book, but it's just so fascinating to kind of look through these, especially together, the messages that come from these as a combo. Usually I do one tarot card and 2 of these on either side, but just look at this. They're just so bizarre and just so fascinating. Choices for the lovers, maturity for strength, community. It's just such a wonderful combination of colors and images and, you know, words all combining to make this very colorful, curious deck. It's fascinating to me. I love its energy, and I really do get strong messages from it, even though it is so curious. Oh, these are all upside down now. Such a beautiful project that Heather's put together here. So yeah, definitely check it out if you can. It's on, I'm fairly sure she sells it on Etsy. Shadow Self for the Devil. Look at that. And it speaks to that curious energy of us having curiosity, you know, with dealing with our own kind of stuff, you know, digging like a bit deeper. They're both that inner journey and that sort of inner compass. It's all about looking within. Look at this tower. It's so funny. It's the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? Or is it? I could be wrong there. Either way, it's like it's all been strung up together, like, you know, on like strings, and that it can all come apart. And this figure's just kind of, oh, okay, let's just let it fall now. I've had my revelation. It's funny. It draws the eye. Look at that. Inspiration for the star. Self-reflection for the moon. It's just, there's so much. It's such a rich deck. You know, maybe for some it could be, you know, quite a lot, but for me it's just every time I look at it, it makes me smile. There's something more to kind of explore here. Look at that for the sun. You know, the sun is usually quite a boring card in my opinion, but illumination, even just getting a new word for it, kind of changes, it makes you curious. It makes you curious about tarot again. That's what I feel like this deck does, and that's why it belongs in my top 10 curiosity decks. Did a wonderful job. Have faith, guys. Love it. So that's the Inner Compass Oracle and the Inner Journey Tarot combo. for our number 3. Definitely can't be leaving that out. So next up we have another, in my opinion, very curious tarot, and that is the Hermetic Tarot. One of the first tarot decks I bought myself. I have no idea, like I said, it literally drew me in because it just made me curious of all the symbols. I have no idea really how to read this like kind of properly, in all honesty, and it's something I'm gonna have to study, but you'll understand why I was so drawn to it and why it fits in this category when you have a look. Look at these images. Look at that death card for one. All the symbology. We have that Scorpio symbol. So much going on here. Skeletons, centipedes, you know. It's called Child of the Great Transformers, you know. Even a different tagline in the backs. This kind of monochromatic art. Very old school kind of illustration. Pippish in some ways. Definitely has that sort of curious, you know, vibe about it, especially with all the symbolism, you know, all the esoteric kind of symbolism in this is so rich, but it's a bit different from the Toff, I think, in the way things are kind of laid out. Got this guy sort of doing a handstand with Star of David on his bum cheek, you know. How more curious can you get? So many wacky characters in this, so much that kind of draws the eye. Could definitely see this being in some sort of kind of curiosity cabinet, I think, or finding it in some sort of magician's room. Very rich, very rich in symbolism, this deck, and it's a bit bonkers even, to be honest. Even the daughter of the firmament, I don't even know if I know what that word means, and I thought I had a good vocabulary. Yeah, it's very mystical, this deck, very alchemical. That's why I think it drew my eye. Definitely reminds me if I was like finding myself in an old house of an elderly relative, you know, a bit like that Magician's Nephew, you know, the book from the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe series. Going up into that sort of studying and just finding all these weird and wonderful things. This would be a deck I would imagine would be there. Yeah, so cool. If anyone really makes use of this deck, let me know like how you kind of learn it. That would be cool, because I do want to at some point. I just find it very overwhelming in terms of reads, but I really just love looking through it. I really do. I feel like the black and white makes it even more kind of poignant for some reason. Look at this, she's holding her head. Well, oh gosh, yeah, we do get that Queen of Swords energy. She's literally decapitated someone. She's kind of that cutting. It's fascinating. Just, it's curious because it feels like it's this sort of keeper of all this knowledge that I'm just not yet aware of. And I need to just learn a few things to unlock it, you know. So it does, it keeps me curious. It keeps that sort of forever kind of student in me kind of alive. So yeah, I do love it. That is the Hermetic Tarot. Very cool. Has its kind of connection to the Golden Dawn, the Secret Order of the Golden Dawn, which is obviously quite a curious community of people too. So that's that. What next? Now I wasn't too sure about putting this in, but then I was like, no, I would see this in my curiosity cabinet, and it's not just because of the box, but that does help, and that is the beautiful Bubba Studios, a Victorian Romantic Tarot. Look at that, you know, what a wonderful box. But I say curious, and you may not agree with this, but for me, I feel it does fit that kind of aesthetic, you know, one because of its sort of old school nature. I mean, look at it, it's wonderful. It definitely would be in my sort of luxurious decks as well, that's for sure. But I feel like it does have its sort of curious cards, I have to say. Not only is it so beautifully made, but these are kind of doctored in many ways, like these kind of old, you know, kind of paintings. You know, some of them are kind of, you know, very ancient, what they look, which is very curious anyway. We're stepping back in time. But some of them have been changed to kind of really kind of get the meaning of the tarot across, but quite in a fascinating way, I feel. Yeah, it definitely nods to that sort of kind of period kind of aesthetics, period piece aesthetics. You know, this is obviously Victorian artwork, which is something I find, you know, they're kind of the hub of the curiosity cabinets, where these sort of things probably started happening when the Victorians are exploring, you know, things outside of religion, really stepping into science, and, you know, people having jars of animals and things like that, taking things back from, you know, all of the travels they'd been going on at that point. So this is the era of curiosity, really, the Victorian era for me, and I just feel like it, you know, this deck, it would be there, would be in that cabinet, you know, pride of place, you know, that box for sure. But just because its energy is, you know, as much as it's quite classic, quite beautiful, it does have a curious kind of nod to it too, I feel, in my opinion anyway. You know, I want to know the stories behind these characters, I really do. And I really like when we see some sort of doctored kind of images and how they've made that fit the tarot. That's pretty cool. So yeah, the Victorian Romantic Tarot. Throwback to those Victorian days where a lot of curiosity came back around again after many a kind of dark age, to be fair. So yeah, it couldn't not go in there. That is the Victorian Romantic. Now, moving on to deck 6. This list, this compilation of curiosities would not be complete without a little bit of bone and kind of botanical energy. So I had to put the Energy Archaeology Oracle deck into this tag. I don't know how it skips, like, you know, it skipped my mind when I was thinking about these decks initially, and then I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is a very curious deck, you know, very beautiful in my opinion, probably a bit kind of creepy in others, but it is, it's got all of that kind of botanical bone energy. It's very unique, it's very kind of wacky in some ways, even though the imagery is very beautiful in my opinion, you know, it's very strange. Look, we have ribs and a waterfall. It's very kind of out there, you know. It's quite a new way of thinking about things in terms of it as a system, as an oracle deck, you know, thinking about these sort of holistic kind of healing aspects of, you know, our emotional body as well as our physical body, namely our kind of bone structure of this deck. And it's just very, like, you know, it really invites you into this new space of understanding, you know. I love working with this deck because it keeps me kind of fascinated and interested, you know, and that's what curiosity is all about. You're like, wow, I didn't even think about things like this. And this is just from the book, but gosh, looking at the art as well is enough to draw you in, I think. You could definitely have this on display in your curiosity cabinet, have all your kind of bones and whatever else witchy goods you have around, and I'm sure it would kind of be pride of place and fit very well. Look at this, blessing and burden. We have this sort of, you know, this nod to the Justice card almost, with this balancing act here of the scapula. That's for all these skeleton-like creatures, you know, in landscapes and forests and skies, and it's just very beautiful. It kind of reminds us of our place in this world, you know. Very weird but beautiful. And definitely, if you're interested in, especially in healing work, particularly your physical ailments, I would say, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Really look into this deck. It is really such a fascinating project, honestly, and I'm fairly sure it's still for sale. You can find it in an indie deck shop vendors. Yeah, look at this dreaming. It's very dreamy, very, like, you know, we get all of this sort of mottled light in the forest and these strange bone kind of, you know, anatomy kind of illustrations, you know, and kind of all these bone structures kind of linked with the sort of landscape as well. It's so cool. I love it. It does kind of hark back to those sort of you know, when different kind of ways of thinking in terms of medicine were being introduced in that sort of Victorian era again, you know. Yeah, I love it. I really do. It's a wonderful deck, wonderfully produced deck as well, very well made. So yeah, hopefully it will last my curiosity cabinet for a good while. And that is the Energy Archaeology Oracle deck, guys. I'll be sure to list them all in the description anyway, so don't worry, you won't miss out on any of the curiosities. So yes, now we're really going to be going into some of my more curious kind of decks that really and truthfully very, very unique. Some of them, pretty much all of them that are left near enough, are kind of vintage as well. This is the sort of little kind of curious collector in me that likes kind of vintage, kind of out of print to some degree things that just caught my eye really on eBay and whatnot. So where do we begin? Let's go here. This is a wonderful little deck, and these are more like playing card decks at the moment. We're going to be looking at 2 playing card decks and like ending on 2 kind of oracles of their own system. So although this sort of fits into that too, but without further ado, let's have a look, shall we? This is the Key to the Kingdom, an enchanted deck. How wonderful is that? Even this, look at the way that it's produced. This looks very curious, you know. We have a book, we have this deck. It's fascinating. It caught my eye and I had to have it. And I paid next to nothing for it on eBay. So yeah, you can definitely find it secondhand there, guys, if this catches your eye. But it actually says these cards are a nod back to, you know, it said in the 1800s, you know, people started playing around with playing cards and kind of giving the sort of normal illustrations a bit of a twist. And this is no different. This is by someone called Tony Mewison. I probably pronounced that horrendously wrong. So we get these sort of playing cards initially, but as we go through, look at this. We've got a crab. We get all these wonderful kind of illustrations. Let's zoom in a bit so we can really kind of ogle at these. Look at this dodo. It's just so curious and fascinating. A bat with the Ace of Clubs. Like, I'm kind of trying to learn how to use kind of playing cards in terms of like how they kind of marry to, you know, how we can use them in cartomancy and also marry them to the tarot system. But look at this. Look at this cake, but it's sort of these laughing, it's so weird. Laughing mouse cake. Reminds me of that cheese, the laughing cow. Who is this? Look at how it's made her like shouting and screaming. And so each of these, which is even more curiouser, is linked to a very like, I think they're classic old school kind of poems actually in this book. So each card has its own poem, which is fascinating. So what's this 7? Because this is interesting me. She looks like left out in the cold. 7 of Swords, okay. Always the easiest energy. What does the book have to say on this matter? Can we find it? Even the book is laid out weirdly because it's not really done in like suits. I don't even know how it's done. It's just, okay, it's going to be the last 7 I find. They're laid out all over the gaff, to be honest. Here we go. And it says, when I was a little girl, about 7 years old, I hadn't got a petticoat to keep me from the cold. It's just, you know, it's an old school kind of poem. Kind of 4 lines to do with this, you know, and the cards are based off of these, you know, that's what the imagery is about. So it's very fascinating. I feel like it's going to be used, you know, as an oracle for me. I'm not sure if I'm seeing too much of a correlation with the tarot meanings just yet. But look at this, like they're like mushrooms growing on a tree. It's just so cool. Honestly, I love playing cards that have a little bit of pizzazz to them, you know. I don't know if I'll be playing like card games with this one, to be fair. I do want to use it in my sort of divination, but other than that, I just think it's such a cool thing to have, just to look through, and just them poems. You know me, I love a poetry deck. I love poetry. I like writing poetry to do with my own reading, so to have a deck that's already sort of marrying that is pretty cool. Look at this. It's fascinating, and it's all on its skin. So yeah, guys, that is the Key to the Kingdom, an enchanted deck. Definitely, if it catches your eye, definitely have a look for it, you know. I saw quite a few listed on eBay, so You might even get it for quite a good price, to be fair, if it's up your alley, if you like playing cards, or you know, like to kind of turn them into an oracle. Definitely seems to be scope for that with this one. But yeah, that would definitely be in my curiosity cabinet for sure, along with all the kind of book section. Next up, we have another curious card deck of playing cards, but we're fast forwarding to the modern day now, and this is Patrick Valenza's Royal Mischief transformation playing cards. This is the only Patrick Valenza deck I have at this given time. Actually, I don't have the Diva Moon. I'm really not too sure about it, but I do like his other ones, I have to admit. But this is fascinating. I first saw this on Marine from the Waves of Your Soul channel, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. It's just like, if you can see, I think I'll zoom in even a bit more for these so you can really have a look. They've all, you know, Patrick has drawn all these weird and wonderful sort of scenes on the cards, and they've got like a name. So pop goes the Mischief with a 6. Oh no, what is this anyway? The 8 of diamonds. You know, you've got these really weird, you know, kind of, you know, we're used to it from him, kind of courtly characters. Rare Specimen, 5 of Hearts, you know. I'm really not sure how to use this in my divination yet. It's going to be more of an oracle. It's relatively new, so we have to get a bit more acquainted, but it is just so funny and fascinating to go through, honestly. I've really enjoyed it so far. Look at this. So fascinating. I really do love his artwork. It is really cool and curious. It has to be said. So yeah, if you're looking to add to your collection of his goodies, don't overlook this one. You know, it seems to be quite easy to get. You can buy this on Amazon. So yeah, it is very mischievous as well. I like that it's called that. And it's just entertaining, you know. This is why we have curiosity cabinets sometimes. We fill it with things that we find good and happy to look at, you know, that, you know, intrigue us. And it's definitely intriguing and entertaining. So definitely fits the bill, I think. So yeah, definitely had to include it. That's the Royal Mischief playing cards by Patrick Valenza. Another playing card deck there. Okay, right, that was number 8. So on to number 9. Another vintage find, very randomly, saw it on eBay and it caught my eye. That is the Chinese horoscope deck of cards. Very interesting deck this. Let's zoom me back out a little bit again. I just saw this on eBay. I actually missed out on it on eBay and actually bought it on some random sort of Spanish eBay equivalent. If I can remember what it was called, I'll list it. And just, it was the images that really kind of drew me in. They're very curious. Obviously this has something to do with the Chinese horoscope system, and it seems has something to do with Chinese medicine also, which is something I'm interested in Eastern philosophy in terms of how holistic they are and how they view kind of ailments, particularly physical ailments. But just look, isn't this the most curious thing ever? I love the artwork. Snake looks serpent. I think this is a partly French deck originally as well, and it's called horoscope. I'm not going to butcher it. It's just very fascinating. I haven't worked with it enough because I don't fully understand, you know, I haven't really gone into the Chinese horoscope of things yet, nor the astrology of the sort of more Western kind of nature either, but I just found it so interesting, restless, nervous. I think it makes for quite a good oracle deck in all honesty, even without having to kind of understand the meaning behind some of these. Obviously it's linked to the sort of zodiac animals, etc., body parts, but you know, I feel like it's not too bad to use as an oracle intuitively, actually. I feel the imagery really speaks to me, and sort of the knowledge I have about certain things that pop up in this deck anyway kind of give me an understanding of what it could be talking about. But it would be a cool deck to learn. It doesn't really have like too much of a... It has a little white book actually, but there's not much in it, and I probably need to go through it properly again, because maybe it does tell me how to use it and I'm just talking rubbish. But I just think it's so fascinating. Dreamer, sentimental. It's got this very 80s sort of children's book colouring, penciled kind of images, which I really like. And we're going through all the seasons now. So yeah, it's a curious little thing. Has to be said, you know, something like, you know, like I said, the Victorians going around kind of exploring all around the world, bringing things back from other cultures, that sort of kind of curiosity into leaning into other ways of thinking. This deck definitely speaks to that, as well as just looking quite curious and being quite intriguing. Here of the rats. So yeah, you can find it and it's up your alley, and you know, maybe you are way more familiar with this type of astrology, and you know, look like you want a deck to do with that, definitely give it a go. It's a really beautiful deck. I just love its energy. I really do need to learn how to work with it more, because I do want to make it useful. And that is the Chinese horoscope. That's again has this dragon on there, Year of the Dragon, or like that, for any of you that are interested, by Baptiste Paul Grimard. Wow, was it made in 1848? That's pretty cool if it was. I doubt it, but yeah. Number 9. So, finishing off, we're going to zoom back out for this because this is a little bit of a chunky monkey, I think. Let's have a look. Another vintage find. I saw this and I really, first and foremost, just like the look of the cards. It looked like, again, like a cool kind of card set that could be used as an oracle. But then, having looked into it a bit more, I realised I might want to use this actually as its own divination system and find the book that goes along with it. So some of you may be familiar with this, but this is called Stargate the Tools by Richard H. Gere. Now, when I see Stargate, I just automatically start thinking of that kind of sci-fi show I used to watch a little bit with my dad. I don't know if this is actually part and parcel with that. It could be. You get this whole like matte kind of, you know, almost like a tarot layout. It's really cool. And you know, we get these decks, these card decks with it, which, you know, again, very 80s, very curious. I just thought, this would be cool to use as a little oracle, why not? But yeah, it seems like it has this whole own kind of system. I can zoom into them, have a little look. Just, I thought it was very curious, very old school, bringing me back to some sort of Red Dwarf sort of moment here. I don't know why. Mask. I just found the kind of I don't know, the imagery and the sort of words, and on the back you even have, you know, meanings: obstacle, problem, foundation, building. So, and obviously it has its own system, hence all these different keys. But yeah, I haven't learned that yet. I just thought, wow, that looks like a pretty cool little kind of retro oracle. Why not give it a go? I like the meanings of some of these cards. So yeah, but having looked into it more, getting curious about it, I found that there's a whole book that goes along with this, where you can sort of use this to sort of ask certain questions, almost like in a tarot way. So that seems pretty cool. So I think I'll be giving that a go. So I've got to just find the book secondhand. I think they're selling it on Amazon, so I think I should be able to get it quite easily. Yeah, so many cards. Oh, I love this. The eye. What's that one say? Perceiving vision. Egg. It's just such a random array of objects and kind of everyday things and seasonal things. Ladder. But they speak to the intuition, I have to say. Siphon, like, what's that even mean? Have I even said that right? You know, they really do speak to that intuition, and it's got that sort of you know, kind of cosmic aspect to it as well. This called Stargate, which is obviously, you know, something that really piques my interest. You know, the thing that can keep us the most curious, you know, space, everything that comes along with that. So yeah, Stargate the Tools, guys, if you can find it. I found this on eBay randomly when I was looking through secondhand decks, and yeah, I don't regret it, not at all. I really want to make use of this as an oracle and actually use this system. So if any of you are familiar with this deck, you know, it's from the 80s. I'm sure some of you may have seen it before. Let me know how you got on with it then, how you used it. That would be really cool. And maybe, you know, if you're interested in a video when I've actually learnt the system, I can make a video on it for you guys. So yeah, let's pop that away. So, zoom us back out, see all the goodies. That is all my deck offerings, guys. Fairly sure that's all of my curious decks. I'll probably find some more knocking about after this and be like, oh, why didn't I throw that in? But I did think, you know, there's one thing that's not quite a deck, but I do feel it's quite curious, and I also find it's quite cool that I thought I'd show you guys. So if you just allow me, allow me this one. And that would be the Goddess Guide Me Oracle that answers questions of the heart. And this is by Amy Zerner and Monty Varba. You know, they're very, you know, we know these guys because they have quite a few, they have the Enchanted Tarot. They've made a few very kind of poignant decks. Oh, I've got a few bits and bobs in here that shouldn't be in there. But the reason why this is so cool, it's a divination system. It's quite fun. It's quite curious, you know. We have these dice that we roll, and we have this wonderful book that's sort of split into different aspects of each goddess, and we roll the dice, and then we see what our kind of message from the head, the heart, and what's the last one? The head, the heart. What's the aspects? Home, head, heart, and home. So like the root almost, roots that chakra. And it's so cool, and it's you know, their artwork is fantastic. It's beautiful, this sort of collagey, beautiful kind of creatures. Look at them, fantastic. And the messages are really poignant, and it's just such a curious thing that I found, you know, out of the blue, secondhand again. And I've loved it. It's such a cool thing to sit down with. Very mindful, very fun, but also very, like I said, poignant. Very beautiful goddess kind of divine feminine energy off this deck. But again, very curious. Don't get many things like this now. I think it's from the 90s, but yeah, I thought I'd just include that because it has been really, really cool to find and use. So that's the Goddess Guide Me Oracle. I think we're going to end it there, guys. So thank you once again, Candy, for creating this wonderful tag. I really enjoyed it. It was really cool to go through my collection. And also Rachel from Amethyst Ascension. It was really cool to have a look for my objects or what I put in my curiosity cabinet too. I hope some of my decks piqued your interest. I hope you had fun looking through these curiosities with me. If you did, give me a thumbs up, you know, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It does help the channel grow and help introduce more curiosities to more curious people. Why not? So yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for being at the Treehouse. Thank you for having a peek into my curiosity cabinet with me. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.